And so at a young age, treasure hunts for me and codes were fun. Like that's how I process them. And so I write thrillers that are essentially treasure hunts. Da Vinci Code is a treasure hunt. This book has codes and secrets in it for kids to decipher. And it's just part of making it all fun.
Isn't it amazing that you can instill that curiosity in children using those same code sequences? Isn't that critical these days?
Of course it is, because I mean, there's so much consumption of entertainment that does all the work for you. You just watch a show. And it's rare that we interact the way we used to interact with books. Fortunately, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of video games, but I love it when kids are playing and interacting and trying to solve puzzles. You know, that's the new Wild Symphony is essentially these games that make you think. And that's important.
Where do you see this project going in your life? How much do you want to develop it?
You know what? This is funny. My father, when he first heard Wild Symphony, he's 88 years old and a very accomplished man. He heard it and he took me aside. He said, "You won't believe me, but you wait. You think you're going to be remembered for the Da Vinci Code? Wild Symphony." Yeah.
Oh wow.
So the people in my life who are starting to develop it see it really going the way of Peter and the Wolf and becoming something standard. Something standard and classical. I'm honored that anybody will play it, to be honest, because it really has been just a labor of love for me.
And let me just highlight the fact that you came to play it in a Latin American country. How much of this experience of this symphony have you taken to the region or to other parts of the world? You know, understanding how music and proving how music is universal. You
Sure.
know?
Well, it's interesting. This is now in, I think, 24 languages and more, and it's been performed well over 100 times in countries all over the world, sometimes with major orchestras, sometimes with smaller orchestras, and I'm not there very often. This was a special concert. To come to Place de Bellas Artes with the National Orchestra from Mexico is a huge honor, and I came.
So let's talk about codes and sequences for adults with your new novel.
Yes, yes.
It's
a few
coming
secrets.
Out, a few of them.
Just a few.
It's coming out in September. The Secret of the Secrets, correct? And this is Professor Langdon arriving in Prague.
Yes, so in English it's The Secret of Secrets, and the Spanish edition is called El Último Secreto. Mm-hmm. And it is, I can't tell you much, but I can tell you it is set in Prague, and it's a little bit different. This book took a long time to write. It took 6 years. Oh. Most of my books take 2.5.
I was wondering because it's been 8 years, right?
It's been a long time. And it's not that I've been lazy, it's been that this is a very hard book to write. It is by far the most ambitious and intricately plotted book that I've ever attempted. I also happen to think it's the most fun. The people who've read it are very excited about it, think it's going to be very, very popular. So I hope they're right. I happen to think it's the best thing I've ever written, but we'll see what happens.
When you say it's the most ambitious, what exactly happened in that process?
Well, it has more characters, more twists, and the theme is human consciousness and the human mind, which is a very difficult topic. If you put a bomb in the Vatican, the book sort of writes itself. You write angels and demons. If you're talking about human consciousness, it's a very amorphous topic to write a thriller about. So I really had to figure out, how do you write a thriller? And this book is a thriller. It's a treasure hunt, it's a love story, it's a thriller. It's all the things you expect from a Langdon book, but it's in the world of studying human consciousness. And what's so fascinating about human consciousness is that we do not understand how the human mind works. We still don't. There's a lot of theories, but nobody's proven anything yet. And it is, at the end of the day, the secret to our existence is, how our brains work.
Can you share some of that researching process, learning process?
On September 9th, I can. That's right. The research process.
But what you learn through that process of, talking about the human consciousness is so complex.
It is incredibly complex. I talked to literally quantum physicists, philosophers, psychiatrists, geneticists. Everybody has a different idea about the way consciousness works. And what's fascinating is that we have the sense that our consciousness happens in our brains, that this is where we live, that our consciousness, that sense of self, that sense of who we are, our hopes and our dreams, is the product of chemical processes in our brains. And that's the theory, and it makes sense because that's how it feels to us, that it's made in our brains. The problem is there are all of these anomalies that say that may not be true. And so the question is, well, if that's not true, what is true? And that's what this book is about.
Do you expect it to become a movie as well?
Yes. This is going to be different. This is going to be a streaming series. I loved making the movies. Ron Howard and Tom Hanks are just princes, incredibly talented, wonderful guys. I had a great time making these movies. It's also very, very difficult to make a 2-hour movie out of a 160,000 word novel that's very complex. And so now with streaming television, and all these movie stars now making streaming television, we decided for this book, because it's so complex, that we would make a streaming series. And that is what's going to happen. I can't tell you much more than that. It'll be announced fairly soon. But it will be a streaming series of 8 to 10 hours where the story is told over a great amount of time. I cannot wait to make it. I'm working with just incredible people on this. And we'll be filming in Prague and all over the world. It's going to be
a film that might get tariffs, by the way, now that we know that maybe movies will be tariffed with 100% tariff in the United States, by the way.
I don't talk politics. I'm sorry. I don't know what to say.
But the work of art is going to be probably more expensive for the viewers to reach, to just have a look at it. But in all your thrillers, there's always this questioning, and I'm wondering about like just sowing the doubt, always doubt, challenging just preconceived notions, as you said. How important is it for you to have the reader get that into clarity, into a stage of clarity, because all the thrillers are doubts, and our current, environment is full of doubts. We doubt everything. So how do you inform that process where this is the reality, and your novels are talking about, instilling doubt?
Well, I mean, doubt and uncertainty is at the core of the arts. The only thing that makes music work is tension, this idea that these notes need to resolve. This is an awkward, doubtful moment, and it has to resolve. That's what thrillers are about. They're very, very similar in that to write a symphony, you need to understand pacing and structure and thematic material rising and falling. You write a novel, you better understand pacing and structure and thematic material. They're very, very similar, and doubt is at the core of them. Now, these novels, you take a book like The Da Vinci Code, which basically comes with the premise that, look, history is written by the winners. The history that we learn is written by the conquering force and is therefore might not be totally accurate. And when I started the Da Vinci Code, I was looking to tell just a different story. In researching the book, what happened to me personally was that the story I told made more sense to me than what I learned in Sunday school. And I was brought up Episcopalian, which is akin to Catholicism. And I learned the stories that you probably learned as a child. And the story I told made more sense to me personally. Whether I wasn't trying to sell it to the world, this is what makes sense to me. It's another history. And of course, there were a lot of people who didn't like that history, and a lot of people who felt that way, that it was true. And with this new novel, The Ultimate Secret, The Secret of Secrets, we have an idea about the way the world works, reality works, the way our minds work, the way consciousness works. And it really is challenging that and offering, in the same way the Da Vinci Code did, here's a different story about what might be happening. And what happened to me was the same thing that happened with Da Vinci Code, which I became a believer along the way. And I really believe that the next 10 years in consciousness theory is going to be explosive. We are going to learn things about ourselves that are shocking and absolutely wonderful and have implications for the interconnection of people, the future of the species, and even death. And I won't give too much away, but I'll tell you that I've always been frightened of death. I love life. Like all of us, you really don't want to die. And after finishing this book, I've come out the other side saying, look, I'm not looking to die anytime soon, but all the fear is gone.